everybody, and welcome to Thursday Night Live Coaching. I'm your host tonight, Caitlin Crypto Kate Bestenheider. Right now on the screen, we have NCL Commissioner Dan Manson. We have Franz Payer, the Cyber Skyline game makers, and you guys know Gina Kazenza. She's one of our player ambassadors. John is in the wings, ready to jump on board. WebWitch is trying to join us while also trying to make a flight. And we're going to try to go through our top 10 do's and don'ts. What's really unique about the show is we have so many people on the show, we're going to be swapping people in and out, but that means we might swap in and out you. So what our team is going to do if they want to tag in is they're going to just type tag in the comments. So if you have a pro tip to share, you can type tag and we'll tag you in. We won't tag in any players till we've gotten through our top 10, but after that, if you want to jump on board, we're happy to have you. So we're going to go ahead and start with Dan Manson. Dan, you want to talk about your top 10 do and don't?
Sure. I'm going to start with the do's because there are a lot of do's, and I really only have one don't. The do's are to enjoy being part of NCL. NCL is not something you do by yourself. NCL is something you do with friends, and you make friends all the time when you play NCL. The Slack channel, I think, is one of the best things that we have going. You're going to find Franz on the Slack channel. You can find Toby on the Slack channel. You can find Kate. You're going to find WebWitch. There's so many people behind the scenes of NCL that are on the Slack channel that you can make friends with. We love seeing people in the Slack channel. We love you sharing with each other before the game. We love you commiserating during the game, and we love you sharing after the game is over. I want to emphasize that during the game piece because that's my don't. When you're playing the individual game, you are the one playing the game. You do not share during the game. In the team game, you have a team, and you work as a team, but you don't share outside the team during the game. But the Slack channel is a community channel. NCL is a community, and we want you to be part of this beautiful community that keeps growing. So do participate in the Slack channel as much as you can. You're going to find that there are people with the same passion that you have, people that can have the same frustrations that you have, but you're going to get to know people through Slack. We have several other ways for you to be part of this community. What we're doing tonight is a perfect example. The Crowdcast series is for the community. So those of you that are online right now, please put in your comment, put in your thoughts, and participate in Crowdcast in the future. If you're not able to attend a Crowdcast session, we record all of them, so you can always catch up. On Facebook now, we have our regular NCL Facebook page, and we have a Facebook group page. I encourage you to be part of both of those Facebook online communities for National Cyber League. One of the best places to go for information is Crypto Kate. Crypto Kate's blog is a beautiful thing. Please take advantage of it. Please send a link to your friends. With all of these, please make sure that if someone's interested in National Cyber League, you send them how you get involved. You send them these examples of the NCL community. And for yourself and for your colleagues, please tap into the community. The reason we succeed is because we have a community and you are the community.
So with that, I just want to add a question that I've run into that players have had about sharing strategies and answers and things like that within schools. So there's some confusion between school teams and teams within the Cyber Skyline platform. So Franz, I'm going to let you sort of explain the difference between your school's team and then your NCL team.
Sure. So you can have the people that you compete with at your school. You call that a team. You might have 10, 20 people on that team. That's separate than your NCL team, right? So your NCL team is specifically the team that you have for the team game, where there can be up to 7 people. and your school can have multiple teams participate. And during the team game, you can talk to all of your friends in your team, but you can't talk to people from other teams, right? So whether they're another team from your school or another team from another school, you can't talk to each other during the team game. Now, feel free to talk to each other before and afterwards and share different ideas and different tools and how you do things outside of when the actual competition is happening. But once the competition is happening, it's just your group, right? Just those up to 7 people who you're competing with during the actual team game.
Perfect. So that brings you to my pro tip. I said do read the challenge category, challenge name, instructions, basically anywhere on the page that you can get information. You never know which part of it is going to be that one box that sets off the light bulb in your head and helps you figure out the answer. It sometimes also contains clues, hints, tips, or keywords that you can use to Google how to solve the challenge. So in my blog, I referenced some like really early mentions. There was a challenge that was literally just called metadata, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm looking for metadata, and I was like, how to see metadata. I didn't know what metadata was at that time, so I was just Googling random things. I think one of my favorites is when people tell me they can't solve the shift cipher. And it's not called a shift cipher, but in the directions it says it appears to be a shift cipher. So read the directions. I know we've heard that since kindergarten, but it's true. And then my don't stay stuck on the same challenge, which you're going to hear a lot tonight. If you are stuck, don't just sit there and grind and grind. You're not going to improve if you're just beating yourself up and everything else. So feel free to take those breaks, walk away, and we've got lots of tips related to that, so I'm not going to drive in the point. Next up would be Franz's tips, which are, do you have yours, or do you need me to read them?
I've got it. I want to add quickly before we move on to this next point. If you are stuck on the same challenge and you are convinced that you have the right answer, the first thing you should do is reread the question. We get so many different support requests, which is, hey, I got the flag, I'm entering it in, and it's not being marked as correct, and you're not answering the question for the flag. You're answering the question for the encryption type or the for the reverse engineering challenges. You'll be answering the question for what language is this program in. Make sure you're reading the question first, right? That's. I know you're excited to get that flag, and as soon as you find it, you want to submit it. Make sure you're putting in the right box. So that's just my quick thing.
I actually was arguing with Toby one season, arguing so hard because I was like, I am 100% positive that this is the entry that's coming from another country or whatever it is. And it wasn't asking for, which entry or their IP address or anything like that. It was like, what country is it coming from? And I was like, oh, I must have submitted the wrong answer 10 times, and I must have been complaining at Toby for 2 hours, and he didn't deserve it. I just can't read. So prime example.
I mean, yeah, we get that everyone's excited, and when you think you have an answer, you found something, that's always a very exciting thing. But just take that extra second to look at the question again. And people also will frequently submit the same thing multiple times. If it didn't work the first time, it's not going to work the second time. And if we do make a modification, that will automatically happen. So if you're convinced you got the right answer, you come to us, and we do find that it's the correct answer, we will make the correction. So don't feel the need to submit the same thing multiple times, because you'll just lose your accuracy, you'll lose your attempts, and then you'll be locked out of the challenge when you run out.
So go ahead, Franz, with your do and your don't.
Sure. So a very important do is making sure that you have the right tools installed. Kali Linux is probably the best thing that you can install. It's very simple suite of tools that you'll need. A lot of those tools in Kali for the NCL. And on the blog post, you'll see the K added here. Make sure that you install it on a virtual machine. Definitely want to install on a virtual machine, not directly on a computer, because Kali is a little bit unstable and sometimes you can have problems. Just 2 days ago, I was using Kali and I ran an update and it bricked my Kali box, and I luckily had a snapshot and I just reverted back to it. But if it was installed directly on my computer, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So getting Kali on a virtual machine where you can take snapshots, you can roll back in case something went wrong. very valuable thing. It'll save you a lot of time. And you definitely want to keep all of your, NCL hacking stuff in a separate place from where you normally work. You don't want to like accidentally mess something up, install a tool on your main computer, and then mess with your main computer and make it unusable. So definitely having Kali installed as a separate virtual machine is the way to go.
I think John, who will be on in a little bit, I'll let him speak more to it when he gets on, said once that the night before the competition, he tried to install updates on his Kali virtual machine and ended up having to rebuild a new machine from start because he didn't have a snapshot. Yeah, and it wasn't going to finish before the end of the games. So I'll let John speak to that a little more when we get him on. For now, Franz, if you want to cover your big don't.
Okay. So my big don't, also kind of related to time management, is don't waste your time trying to brute force the harder password cracking challenges. The way that the password cracking is designed is the first, couple of challenges, the easy and mediums, are basically designed to have you show your understanding that you know how to run a password cracking tool, not necessarily test your ability to crack hard passwords, just that you know how to do it. So when you get to the harder ones, that's when we start doing things like putting in passwords that aren't in any word lists. And you'll have like a 12-character password that's not a word list, and the way that you have to actually solve that is by building your own word lists. So identifying a common theme amongst the passwords, trying to figure out, can I go online and find resources that will help me build my own word list, and taking just like a list of, in the past we've done like TV show names, like Law and Order SVU episodes.
I finally cracked that challenge literally 2 days ago. I was so proud of myself.
Gina called me and like we both tell it. Gina, like, do you want to sort of talk through, not necessarily exactly what you did, no spoilers, but sort of like how manual the process was?
So basically what I had to do.
No spoilers, but.
Was go look at all the episode titles, find all of the ones that were only one word. Through those, did I use Kane? I used Kane because it's easier. And then I just let it do like the 2 digits at the end. I also had to turn them all into lowercase so that the.
But what did you do to get rid of the ones that were more than one word? How did you get rid of them?
I think I literally copied the whole episode list and then just backspaced those. Yeah. It was something.
So the point here is that sometimes it can be like a very manual process, and there's something very specific that Franz and Toby have created to, destroy you and your spirit. And what was the comment in Slack today that I like lost it over? That somebody said like, I'll find it. We'll come back to it. In the meantime, Gina, you have an awesome pro tip.
Yes. So my do for this season is use the gym. I have heard like so many complaints of like, where can I go to see the challenges? Like, where can I practice before the season starts? Like, use the gym. I had to yell at my players so much to actually like practice and use the gym when like we weren't actually, having our like bi-weekly lessons. Like, guys, use the gym. It's so useful. And there's also like, within everything, there's a little like solutions thing, and it doesn't necessarily give you like the full solution, but it'll give you little like hints of how to start off. So gym is like super important, and you can use the gym during the competition too. Like that's not off limits. So definitely very helpful. And then my don't wait until the last minute during preseason, individual season, and team season. I've had so many players like not anything until the last like 3 hours, and that was because I emailed them like 17 times to be like, hey, it's been a week of preseason and you haven't submitted anything. Submit something or I'll yell at you. Same with individual. It's just not worth it, because in the end your score report's not going to show off the skill you have. It's going to show that you ran out of time and didn't have time to do anything.
So I found the post, and this might be my favorite thing that's ever come in the Slack channel. Jay Carreria said, is the employee activity log analysis question a pain in the ass for everyone, or am I just dumb? Lol. And someone replied The employee is Toby, our game maker, and the malicious activity is making us suffer. 100. Yes. And that leads us right into Toby's pro tip, which Franz is going to share for you guys.
Yeah, so Toby's pro tip is to make sure you join the Slack channel. Dan mentioned this earlier, but truly, if you really want to learn, you really need to learn from other people, and the Slack channel is a great way to get that.
And to blow off steam and complain. I mean, the dialogue you just saw is a prime example of what occurs. And a lot of times people will, with love, roast Toby and Franz, and that makes you feel a little better when they're kicking your butt in the games.
We we always throw in some tricky questions in there, so just go in expecting that you are not the only person that's struggling. There are definitely other people that are struggling, and you can all commiserate together. And if you join the Slack channel, it's a great way to bond, to make new friends, like Dan mentioned. But after each game, we do a debrief. So we don't share answers, but we are able to discuss all the different methods for how do you actually go and complete it, right? So what we really want to be able to do is to teach people how do we actually get to the answer. And so we say, don't put any answers out there because we don't want anyone to just skip to the answer. We only share the methods and methodologies for how do we actually get to the answer. And Cyber Skyline will come in. Toby and I will answer questions that everyone has. We've got a lot of people who will answer questions as well. I always love seeing the different ways and different, very creative ways that people will solve answers when they share in the Slack. And we didn't even consider people being able to solve some of our challenges in those ways, but it's always a great experience. I know that the Slack channel link has been posted in the chat here. I don't know how that shows up in the VOD after it gets posted, but if you are wondering how you join the Slack channel and you're watching this after the live stream, if you go to the dashboard on when you log into Cyber Skyline, at the very top in the announcement section, there is a link to join the Slack channel. So if you're missing this right now and you can't see the link in the chat, just go log in the announcement section. There'll be a link to join the Slack channel. Yeah.
Oh, I had a thought related. I forgot. Ignore me. You also have a don't from Toby?
Yes. So the don't is when we tell you not to use automated scanners or tools for challenges, especially, I mean, it's primarily the web-based challenges. There's a reason for that. So one is we've kind of designed a lot of these challenges for you to do them manually because just running a tool doesn't actually demonstrate that you understand the concept and security and you know what you're doing. It just means that you know how to run a tool. So part of that, the reason why we tell you not to do that is because we want you to understand the fundamental concept, and we built the challenges so that automated tools won't work in those circumstances. Another thing is that a lot of these tools are very noisy. They spam the servers, and it slows things down and it degrades everyone else's experience. So as a result, what we do is we have our own tools and our own systems which will detect if you're writing automated scripts or automated tools, and we will do like a soft ban where you won't be able to access the web server for like 15-30 minutes to kind of tell you to back off a little bit. We want to make sure that everyone can access the challenges. If everyone's spamming when we're telling you that an automated tool is not going to help you get the answer, it doesn't do anyone any good. It doesn't help you. It's going to waste your time. It's going to degrade everyone else's performance. So when we say don't run automated tools, we mean it, and it's not just because we are afraid that you're going to get to the answer. It's because we're trying to do you a service and we're trying to improve the quality of the experience for everyone else.
Oh, I remembered what I was going to bring up. You said as far as like the way you can talk about it in the gym after the fact, but what about people who are doing write-ups and things of that nature after the competition? What's sort of the official stance on write-ups? Franz, if you wanna...
Yeah, the official stance is that you can do write-ups for your group, your team, your school. We don't really allow public write-ups. If you want to go and share your ideas on the Slack channel, that's fine. But please don't share these outside, right? All these challenges are copyrighted. We reuse a lot of the content from past seasons and preseasons for the future. And so we want to make sure that this is going to be a fair and competitive environment for everyone. And write-ups that are public are make that difficult. So if you want to write about something, you want to share your, the way that you did things, feel free to do that in the Slack. Feel free to do that for your school, for your club, but please don't publicize it because we'll have to go and take those down.
And if you're really interested in helping to coach others and teach, we have our NCL Player Ambassador board, and we're always looking for new people, so you can apply on my website, just cryptokate.com, and then there's a link for player ambassadors on the navigation bar. Dan, you wanted to add something?
Is it too late to do a poll? Because that'd be very interesting.
Sure. What's your poll? Well, I have to post the one I was going to wait until later. But
How many use Slack? I'd like to see if over half of those online are using Slack.
All right. Do you use
50%? Hopefully it's the over.
yes or no? I also posted a poll that I was going to save till the end, so vote on your favorite pro tips after you've seen all of our pro tips. So that's in the polls. There's a couple of polls going on. It's how fun is preseason so far on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being too fun to function because your girls got puns. Y'all, I'm tired, okay? I gotta have fun somewhere. And that brings us to WebWitch's pro tip. Gina, I'm gonna let you cover this. Dan, I'm gonna kick you for a minute.
Remember what it is.
Just tag in the comments to come back in so I can get John in while we're letting Gina read for WebWitch.
So WebWitch's do read up on tools before the competition. So that's really important. Do your research before the competition, because otherwise you spend like half of the competition just looking up tools and how to use them. It helps if you kind of know a little bit of what you're doing beforehand. Sometimes you run into something that you've never seen and then you need to start using a new tool. But if you're in the gym, find the tools for those challenges, and you'll probably run into something that uses the same thing. And WebWitch's don't get stuck if that tool doesn't work. I've definitely seen people just continuously try to use the same tools when they can't get something to work. I've done it. I'm sure you guys have all done it. It's just not worth it. Like, if it doesn't work, just move on.
I think Franz can probably speak to how many people will run the same automated tools the exact same way and not make any progress. Or not. Who did I say? I meant Franz. I may have been.
You said Franz. Don't worry.
Okay. I also looked at John and I was like, man, did I say the wrong name? So yeah, Franz. I'm sure you can speak to that a little bit with the data you see on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely see it a lot with the web app challenges, and people are like, oh, here's a tool that I found in Cali. Let me just run this. I'm not quite sure what it does, but I just put in a URL, then it'll do something. So yeah, it would be very nice for both you as an individual trying to understand what you're doing. If you spend a little bit more time getting to understand your tool, reading the man pages. So for those of you who don't know, if you type in MAN, and then the name of the tool that you're trying to use, if it's a command line tool, it prints out the usage and how do you actually, how the tool functions. There's also something else that would be useful, which is you can go online and Google what this tool does. And sometimes there are YouTube videos or other different pieces of information out there for what is this tool and how does it work. But don't get stuck doing the same thing over and over again. And sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes you're just not clicking right now. Try the tool for a little bit, and then if it doesn't work, come back. It's the same advice that I think we've given for don't get stuck on a challenge, don't get stuck on a tool. It's possible to both overthink and underthink. So just when it's not working, take a break, come back later.
Yeah, take a break should be its own tip. I don't know if it's on the list, but it should. It probably.
I think it's the last one.
It's mine. That's cool. I had to compile all of these, so my brain is mush on the dividing lines. Next up is John Macco McGill, our resident shark ambassador.
Thanks. So my pro tip, let's see, I've got, of course, the virtual machine one, which we've already kind of alluded to before. But I can't tell you how many times, you get into a challenge and you wish you could just hit the reset buttons and start over, right? you've made some mistakes along the way. You've got all these artifacts, tons of files that you've, but you can't remember which file you're currently working on. A virtual machine allows you to just recover back to a snapshot. So I snapshot before a challenge sometimes, just, that way I can go back to that moment in time. A snapshot literally is just freezing that moment in time so you can always go back. So, and then we talked, of course, about, introducing vulnerabilities onto your host machine by installing these tools. For example, Wireshark has tons of vulnerabilities that you're opening your machine up to just by installing it on your machine. So put it in a virtual machine and keep your machine safe, keep your environment clean, and yeah, that's my do use virtual machines, don't use your host machine tip. Let's see, my second one is not to make assumptions. And what I mean by that is every challenge is different. When you go in and you're looking at log analysis 1, don't make the assumptions that what worked in log analysis 1 is going to work in log analysis 2. Sometimes they are sequential, and sometimes they follow a similar thought process. But where this really gets me stuck sometimes is making assumptions on steganography, for example, where I think this tool has got to work, and so I just hammer my head against it trying to make this tool work that worked on a previous challenge, but that's not the same challenge. So treat every challenge as different. Every challenge clean slate. Don't make those assumptions because you'll definitely go down some false trails or find some red herrings. And if what you're doing is not working, just back off and come back at it from a fresh angle.
I forgot steganography was a thing until you said it, and I just got immediately sad because steganography falls under crypto and ruins my crypto score every season.
I love Steg. Steg's one of my favorites. Kate and I actually did a Easter egg challenge once where we had to use a lot.
We had to work together because you figured out like the Stego part and I figured out like the crypto part.
Yeah,
very interesting stuff. Not for NCL, but what was it? Hacky Easter?
Hacky Easter, yeah, that was yeah. But yeah, then I have one more that didn't make it on the blog, but I think it's really important, and that is
it's actually included further down. It just ended up under another one.
Oh, okay. Which is basically, you got to control your environment, right? That means
I'll go ahead and skip down to that. So I said do use block tasking to maximize your gameplay. So
okay.
I meticulously make time for my games, and basically, like, I'll look at my schedule modified every time there's at least a 1 hour slot, and I block that off. I share that calendar event with people who might interrupt me. So my family and friends and colleagues know, like, during that hour, I'm doing NCL. You're not going to get an answer. It's not going to happen. I'll even block out 30 minutes sometimes if I have a specific challenge that I think will be relatively quick. I can do crypto in 30 minutes. I can do open source in 30 minutes. Some of the easier log analysis. So I block time out and I dedicate time to NCL, and then that gets followed up with what John also does.
So what I was saying is the environment, right? So everything that she just said is applicable, because what you want to do is you want to try to really kind of isolate yourself as much as possible. And the reason why is because this challenge, especially for newcomers, can be very, very frustrating, right? Sometimes you're working with tools and they're just not working right. You're going down these rabbit trails. You can get really frustrated. And when you start getting that sleep deprivation and, a couple energy drinks in you and, you're trying to focus and concentrate and you're frustrated and someone comes up and bothers you, it's not a really good social environment, if you know what I mean. So, take that and block that time off and just say, this is going to be for NCL, minimize those distractions. It's going to help you concentrate, and hopefully you'll be able to keep your friends and family after the competition.
Gina, you're muted for some reason, but you can keep mumbling
Sorry.
to yourself.
I thought I unmuted myself. I was saying I definitely yelled at my roommate for bothering me one too many times during the competition. It happens when you don't live alone. It's fine. She doesn't hate me.
Yeah. I chucked a wireless keyboard out a window that I didn't know was open because I got disturbed during. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know the window was open. I just kind of chucked it in general, and it just went out the window, and I just shocked, didn't know what to do, and I was like, well, I gotta go catch that. Excuse me while I put on pants.
Yeah, so manage your time, manage your environment, make yourself comfortable.
Manage your anger.
I personally like the DEF CON soundtrack. It's really good, has a good driving beat, but it didn't have a lot of lyrics to distract you. And I usually use that as my my background music. But set your environment because whatever works for you to stay focused, to help you relax during it, and remember to take those breaks. That's been said before, but I think it's worth underscoring.
Yeah, I think my last tip was don't play for more than 4 consecutive hours. I've never seen people do their best work after 4 hours of focus on a single topic, no matter how good you are at like driving it. And look, I'm super guilty of it too. I'll just sit there, but if you've done something for 4 hours, like if you've done the games at all, any challenge, all of the challenges, it doesn't matter if you've switched challenges. If you've been staring at the screen for 4 hours, get up. Walk away 5-10 minutes. I'm not saying a long time. Take 5 to 10 minutes. It will make a huge difference. I think all I wrote under this tip was seriously, we've said it a million times, take breaks. I think I also have a don't forget to take breaks. Your mental health and well-being is your most important asset in the game. So if you get overtired or frustrated or in a bad mood, you're not going to do as well. You're going to send more unnecessary help tickets to Franz and Toby, yelling at them. I speak from experience. Actually, I recently went back and reviewed some of the tickets that I have previously sent in, and I don't know why they keep me around.
Now, what this advice, by the way, goes really well for individual games. I don't recommend it for team play. Team play, you want to talk with your team. You want to be able to, kind of work with each other quite a bit, and have a good dialogue. I've seen the exact opposite happen there, where everyone gets very siloed. They get very focused on what they're doing, and they forget there's teamwork here. This is a time to work together. So definitely during the postseason, when you have those 1 to 7 people on a team, take advantage of the fact that you can blow off a little steam with each other. You can, kind of sound things off of each other. Don't get too siloed and, focus on your task and, to the exclusion of everything else.
Okay, I'm going to hop through these last few pro tips really quick. I said do keep snacks and drinks nearby. This is probably my first tip that I ever created of all time. When I was playing in the games, I would have a little box of snacks that I liked, both healthy and not healthy, everything from like Cheetos to like Nutri-Grain bars, and then also like water bottles. There would also be my caffeinated beverage of choice. There would be alcohol of choice, everything I needed to never leave my desk, which is why that's paired with the don't forget to take breaks. It is important to take breaks, but do have everything that you need right there so that if you're like, you find yourself almost to the answer and you're doing really well and you just don't want to get up to get some water, it's already right there for you. My other do and don't is do give the individual and team game everything you have. The individual game is what really your scouting report comes from, and that's what's really going to have like the lasting impact of your experience each season. But team game is when you have the opportunity to learn from your peers. And I mean, Gina, we've thrown pizza parties and we watched Moana one season.
We've also done like breakfast parties.
Yeah,
like we would go into like our student lounge like super early on a Saturday morning, and we'd get the school to order breakfast for us. That was fun.
We had breakfast sandwiches.
Did breakfast sandwiches.
My favorite was still the season that we put Moana up on the projector, and I mean the boys were rolling their eyes, but there were more girls than guys, so too bad. Me and Lizzie loved it.
You bring up a good point. We love seeing everyone's battle stations. So I know some people love sharing photos in the Slack. Please share them on Slack. Please share them on Twitter where more people can see them. But it's always great seeing how crazy everyone gets, especially for the team game when everyone's all cramped together in one room.
Those are my favorite picks. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Can't be in one room during team game. What my team did last semester, because it was like really not possible for us, was that we made a channel in Discord, and on Discord you can have like just an audio chat so that you don't have to just type back and forth. It was great. made it a lot easier for us because like everybody else on our team was like a commuter student, and they were like, I'm not going to be on campus all day on a Saturday. No. So we did that.
Okay, and the last note from our top 10, and then we can answer some questions, we can have some players offer their tips, is don't forget to prioritize. We've sort of talked about this a little because everything's been a little out of order, but I'm just going to read exactly what I wrote on my blog because I kind of articulated it the best I could there. Your health and mental health come first and foremost, but also make sure you know where school, work, your family, and your friends, etc., fall on your scale versus NCL. For everyone, it's really different. One important thing to note is that if you fail out of school because you spent all of your time on NCL and missed your midterms, which I heard somebody ask if I thought that they should focus more on preseason than their midterms. No, never. If you fail out of school, you're not qualified to play in the NCL games. So school is greater than NCL. But my family also knows that because the competition is certain dates, that those dates, to me, barring, an emergency, NCL is above my family time for me. And that's just known within my family. For some people, maybe you are a parent and your child is obviously more important than the NCL games. You really just need to figure out where it falls on your priorities and respect those boundaries. So a really good example is, I didn't know that my now fiance was going to propose on our cruise. So I was like, yeah, NCL is more important than a vacation. I can totally compete from the boat. I'll just pay for the wireless package. It's fine. Ha, ha. And then when he did propose, I sort of had to readjust my priorities and accept that, celebrating that engagement was more important to me than the games. And unfortunately, I didn't do as well as I wanted to that season. But it's okay to adjust your priorities. Just make sure you understand your priorities and treat those priorities with respect. If there's something that is more important than NCL, like I said, your health and mental health come before, the games, period. I don't care who you are. It should come before the games. So that also leads into take breaks. Like, take breaks for your own mental health because your mental health is more important than winning. There's a couple of really good questions I'm going to bring up here. So give me 1 second. I want to loop back to this one. It's not the most voted, but it was the first question, and I want to give them the first answer because they were first. Kevin says, can players talk about experiences in the gym, only the gym, while the rest of the games are on? And I'm inclined to say no. Franz, do you have an official ruling on that?
Yeah, the official ruling is that normally you can talk about the gym, that's fine, but during the games, we don't want to have this blurry line where we're not sure, are you referring to the gym or are you referring to the actual game? So we just have a default policy when there is an active competition, preseason, individual game, team game, no discussion about the actual content. In between individual game and team game, and in between preseason and individual game, you can discuss the gym freely. You can discuss the preseason after the preseason has happened. After the individual game has happened, you can discuss the individual game, right? So just during the competitive events, we try to stay clear because I don't want to have to worry about policing that and try to figure out, are you revealing something? It's just easier if you can just discuss that outside of the competitive events.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not the end of the world. The events are not that long. And if you're back in the gym during the competition, you're probably trying to figure out something in the competition, and the challenges are just far too similar. Just save it. Save it for after. You should have practiced the gym before and had this question before the games. So if you're asking about the gym during the games, I don't feel bad for you. You can wait, focus on the actual challenges in the competition, and come back to the gym in between. Gina, John, anything to add?
No, I think you covered it all.
John?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, cool. Next question. This one has 3 votes. I think that's the most votes I've seen on a question. Kevin, a different Kevin. Really? That's cool. Kevin says, what happens if you are new and do not have hacking experience? How can you be effective in working with these games? Gina, I'll let you start on this one.
So when I first started, I knew nothing about any of this stuff. Kate told me to do NCL. So did one of our teachers. Kind of just make as much out of like the resources you can find and that you have to you, I guess I would say. Also Google is your friend.
That's actually what Rob
somebody said it
in reply to the question.
Google is your best friend when you're trying to learn this stuff and you don't have a ton of like people around you that know about it. So like for me, because I was doing it at school with a group of people around me that didn't know what they were doing, I was able to kind of get the resources from them. But if you're kind of just on your own doing this, Google and Google and the Slack channel.
Yeah.
We do talk about methodologies when the season is not going on.
Franz, do you have any other tips for how to get started? I know there's solutions in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, the gym is probably the first thing I would do. If you haven't gone through the gym and you're completely new, go through the gym. If you have, if you're taking a class, feel free to ask your coach questions. Maybe they can be helpful. If you have classmates, they can be helpful as well. Gonna reiterate the Google thing. I mean, to be honest, most of this field of cybersecurity is being able to use Google and other online resources to fill those gaps that you don't have, because it's just such a huge field. It's such a huge domain. It's going to be impossible for you to learn everything you need to know in a formal setting. There's going to be a new technology that comes out. You didn't learn it in class, and now you have to pick it up because it showed up on your plate at work, right? That is what this job is. So being able to learn how to use resources like Google and other search engines, if you want to use DuckDuckGo, I know people prefer that for the privacy reasons. But the fact of the matter is that you need to be able to pick up new skills that you don't currently have, because that's such a prevalent part of this industry. So the quicker you can do that, the better you're going to prepare yourself to be successful.
So I just invited Dan back because I'm going to let Dan answer this too. But John, what do you recommend for new players?
There's so much there. I guess I start with the low-hanging fruit, right? Go through and answer what you can, what you're solid in. Don't burn yourself out, trying to go through something that is way, way, way beyond, what you know yet. A lot of times beginning challenges will give you some of the foundation you need to go to some of the advanced challenges. So yeah, just go through the first thing, just like if you're taking a test, 150 questions and you have to go through and, get them done in a short period of time. The best tactic is to go through and just answer everything and then come back to the things that are a little bit more challenging for you.
And then Dan, what do you say is how new players can be effective in the games?
One thing I would emphasize, because I get asked this question, how much time do I need to spend on NCL? It's so open-ended. You can spend an hour during the weekend and really have a good experience. It's not about how many flags you get. It's not about your score. It's about what you get to learn and who you get to learn with. Low-hanging fruit, obviously, is open source intelligence, because it's not a technical category. It's a how well can you Google category. Usually players have an interest in one or more categories. So they may have an interest in something like password cracking. Try a few flags. Don't beat yourself up. If you get one flag over the weekend, it's wonderful. One of the closest colleagues I have in this field told me the first time he played a CTF, he did not get a single flag. It did not deter him. It's not about winning. It's not about your score. It's about being able to do something really cool with people who you want to do it with. Use the resources. Use what we have on Crowdcast with all the pro tips. I think that's a wonderful addition to what we have this year going into the season, so I would encourage you to use the pro tips. We've done, Franz and I have done a few videos on different categories. For some of the categories, tools will help. So Wireshark is a good tool. Kali is a good tool. But it's not about just using a tool. It's about having this inquisitiveness, enjoying solving a puzzle. So I would say jump in, but don't feel any need to be at a certain level. Over time, you're going to get better and better. NCL is not what you do in one season. NCL is what you do over several years, because now we start in 9th grade and it goes through as long as you're taking one college class. So it's a long way to learn. It's not something you have to be good at right away. Enjoy the time going up the curve.
And then, oh, go ahead, Franz.
Yeah, something I wanted to add along those lines as well is if you're a beginner, really just don't beat yourself up when you get stuck on challenges. The most important thing that you can do in NCL is learn something new. It doesn't matter what percentage score you got. If you learn something new, that's what you're getting out of NCL, and that's the real value there. Everyone can look at the stats. A majority of the players aren't even getting 50% of the assessment, and that's okay. This isn't like a test that you have at school where it's expected that you've learned everything already and you should know how to do all these challenges. There's a lot of stuff in NCL that you probably haven't seen before, and it's going to be difficult for you. But if you can learn that one new thing, that's what you're really getting out of it. So even a score like 50%, 30%. That is a good score if you learn something new, right? And then you come back
My first season, I got like 3 flags.
Yeah, I mean, if I can kind of tag in here real quick, I think that probably the best thing you can get out of the NCL is not all the flags, not all the answers, but to find your category, find your passion. I will take passion 10 times over knowledge every day. If you're passionate about a subject, you're going to learn more about it. You're going to put more effort into it. You're going to, try a little bit harder in that category. And, what works for me may not work for someone else. I may not be that much into reverse engineering and, more into the web application testing. And, for someone else, the exact opposite, right? I mean, but this is a very, very wide net that, that is under this cybersecurity label. And, your goal is to find your place in it. Your goal is to find something that ignites that passion inside of you, and then you'll be able to take that and run with it.
And then, not to be super cliche, but for me, the best place to get started is all the content that me and the Player Ambassadors have been writing over on my blog. We've posted so much content this season, and we're finding new ways to organize it, and we're building new pages and new tips and just onslaught of information on my blog. So there's that as well.
I want to make one more point, because this is aimed at the coaches. I don't know if we have any coaches on, but for you players out there, a coach is a facilitator. A coach is not someone who teaches you how to play. A coach is not someone who gives you answers, but a coach is someone who makes it easier for you to play and easier for you to enjoy playing. So I want to emphasize, sometimes I think coaches think they're not ready to coach. It's just like a player, though. You're always ready to jump in, and over time, you will become a better coach, just like you become a better player.
Dan, I'm going to kick you out so I can bring Gina back in, because Hush said a comment that I think Gina's the best person to address. Okay. So Hush says, it's nice to see your own progress season over season too. And I know that I second that, but I know Gina, even in the comments, was like this. So I want to go ahead and let Gina reply to that. Franz, what can you say about sort of how players can see their progress over time on their scouting reports? You make the scouting reports.
Yeah, so for people who are just starting out with NCL, at the end of every season, if you've completed the preseason and individual game, you will get your scouting report, which will basically outline kind of your performance in every single category, the overall performance that you had, and it will also compare you to the best player and then the average of the bracket and the national rank. So you get a lot of information from that scouting report, and that's great for your resumes. It's also great for building out your own skills. So if you have your scouting report from, well, right now we're in the fall, so you had it from the spring, now you're in the fall. At the end of the fall season, you get another scouting report. You can say, okay, let me look at my ability in cryptography. How did I do this time around compared to last time? Did I improve? Did I slip? Where are my strengths and weaknesses? And that stuff you get in the scouting report. It's like a PDF document. Also directly on the Cyber Skyline platform at any point in time, after you've created an account, you can look at it 1 year from now, 2 years from now, but you can go back and see how did I perform in the 2019 spring season, the 2019 fall season, right? And all of those stats and all that data is available for you whenever you want. And that's a very powerful tool for when you need to improve yourself or when you need to go apply for a job or an internship.
So Gina, what do you think about seeing your progress from season to season?
So it definitely is like my favorite part about getting to do this, because I remember so I got silver my first season and I was shocked, like absolutely shocked, but I put the work in to get there. But then the season after that, I think me putting the work in my first season. Can you hear me?
Now we can. You're good.
Okay. So yeah, because I put the work in my first season, I really spent like almost too many hours doing the challenges, and like my score was higher than I had expected it to be. And then going into my second season, I was like, okay, I can't do that to myself again, because I went absolutely insane. So I backed off a little, mostly log analysis, because I hate log analysis. And then my score dropped. Then my third season playing, I got gold, and I was like, I think I called Kate like maybe crying. I was so happy.
Yeah.
Like, it was the best thing ever. I know I was texting her during preseason. I was like, I'm doing really good. I think I'm going to get gold. I'm not sure. I really hope I get gold. Like, I was just so...
I was also, like, driving Franz and Topi crazy. Like, how many players are going to be gold this season? How many players have participated in preseason? Because the brackets are out of the number of people who participate in preseason, and that's not data that you can see. So I was like, how many people have participated? And I was, like, waiting, because I was watching that 15% mark grow because more people were participating. And I was like, oh, she's in the margin. She's in the margin. I can't tell her, but she's in the margin. And I was so proud of her. So my favorite part as a coach is to watch players grow, because it's such a rewarding experience. And Gina, you're such a great example of like why I love coaching. But that season was intense for both of us, because I was like, my baby, please do good, please do
It's
good.
also my first season coaching, so it's like, if I don't get gold, my players are going to berate me.
We're going to rapid fire a couple of these questions at Franz, because a bunch of them, he's just the best person to answer, and I get to put him on the spot and make him uncomfortable, which is always my favorite.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So Hush asks, do we get any hints in preseason?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember. There might be a couple. I don't think there are too many. Once in a while, if you can go check in the hint section, sometimes there'll be something there you can redeem either for free or for points. It's the little question mark that you'll see on the left sidebar when you're looking at a challenge. There usually aren't too many hints. We usually try to provide most of the hints in the actual description of the challenge itself, but occasionally we do have hints.
Hints aren't very common in the games, in general, so don't feel bad if you don't see any. Next one is from Kevin again. Can I use my own programs with these games, or do I have to use open source tools?
You can build your own programs, and I think for a lot of these harder challenges, it makes it way easier if you know how to build your own tool. So definitely yes. Just make sure you're not sharing them with your friends during the season. Like that's not okay.
And I think that's Janice, but I also can't read. Where are the gymnasium solutions posted, and when are they posted?
So the gym solutions specifically are they're alongside the challenges. So I think it should be on the bottom left corner. There's like a little window, and it says "Click to reveal." If you press on that button, it should show up with a PDF that shows you kind of like a guide on how to do it, and that's immediately available, so you don't have to wait.
And then Jeremy asks, what's the difference between preseason and gym?
Okay. Very, very important difference. So the gym...
I think this might be the most important question we've seen tonight.
Yes, probably. With the gym, that is meant for you to practice. You are allowed to discuss that with your friends, with your coach, on the Slack channel outside of the competition. and you have access to basically solutions in the gym. The preseason is competitive, and the preseason is a prerequisite for you to get your scouting report and to be bracketed for the individual game. So the gym, if you've done NCL before, you don't have to go back to the gym. You also don't have to do the gym if you're a beginner. We just recommend it, but you do have to do the preseason. And the preseason is only available for a week. The gym is available for the entirety. I think it's about 2 months. So if you're just starting on right now, the preseason is active and it goes until Monday. So if you're just starting, do the preseason right now. If you get stuck, maybe you can go to the gym and use that as a reference. But absolutely do the preseason now while you have the time to do it.
And I like to say that the preseason makes sure that you get to compete against people at your skill level during the actual games.
Yeah, that's kind of the entire purpose of bracketing. Is we use the preseason to figure out what your current knowledge level is, and then when you actually participate in the individual game, all the novices are competing against each other, all the intermediate players are competing against each other, and all the advanced players are competing against each other. That way, when you're actually looking at your score, it's against people at your skill level, and it's a lot more representative of your ability.
Nick Card asked, do you have to do all of the preseason? I think you only have to submit one correct answer, but I recently
It doesn't even need to be correct.
Yeah. Does it have to be correct?
No.
That's my question.
You can make one incorrect answer, and that is good enough to qualify as to the preseason. It's a very, very low bar. I would like you to do more than that. But that is all that is required, is one incorrect submission. Hopefully it is correct, though. There are a lot of freebies. Like, we literally go into,
the getting started challenges.
The getting started challenges with, like, are you allowed to receive help during the individual game or during the preseason?
Yes or no?
Wait.
Yes or no?
Don't tell them the answer. Hold on, guys. Yes or no question. Answer in the comments. Are you allowed to receive help during the games? This is a free flag, guys.
Sharing? I thought we were not doing that.
This is important, okay? I'm gonna, this one time only, Franz, do I have your permission?
Sure,
for some
you
flag
can.
sharing. Here's our one time only flag sharing.
One time only.
Can you receive help during the games? Yes or no in the comments.
Oh.
I think they have figured it out.
I think they figured it out. Well,
good job, guys. The
great.
answer is
Thank you
no.
for participating in this live stream. Now you have one of the answers for the preseason, so you should go.
I think you get 5 or 10 points right there.
You might want to add a hint for that one. I'm just,
Oh yeah, I'll add a hint. I'll make it worth like 100 points.
There's technically already a hint because there's a whole document alongside that tells you what you can and can't do.
But if put negative, does it still count as asking for a friend? Okay, so you don't have to do all of preseason. Apparently, you can get one wrong answer, but if you participated in tonight's live show, you already have one correct answer and like 5 or 10 points, which will put you alarmingly high on the leaderboard because a lot of people haven't started competing yet. So get on your stuff, fam. Okay. Now for serious questions, I think we've sort of talked about this. Franz, I'll let you answer it again. How do you join the Slack channel?
So I think it's been posted in the chat
already.
already.
Posted in the chat like 4 times.
But in case you're watching this later.
But in case you're watching it later, if you log in, you go to the dashboard. At the very top, there's kind of an update/announcement section. There is a link to the community Slack channel directly there. So
it's also just cyberskyline.com/Slack.
Yes, that's also very easy to remember. So cyberskyline.com/Slack, and that'll take you there.
John, here's a great one for you. Crivens asked, did you just say not to use Wireshark on your host? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So Wireshark has a companion program that goes with it called WinPCAP. And what that does is it allows you to do packet captures on your actual machine. Unfortunately, WinPCAP is also not something you want to leave on your machine, because if someone were to compromise your machine, they would have the complete ability to sniff your network and take all of your packets and decrypt them. And, it's a very powerful tool for but can be a very, very powerful tool for adversaries as well.
Gina, you have it on your host?
You forget that I didn't use a VM my first 2 seasons because you didn't teach me how to put a VM on
That's my first
laptop.
practice. Someone didn't show up to practice then.
I
I never skipped that.
I
So-
didn't join the team until 2 weeks in.
So
No
yes,
one
I
told
did
me.
say do not use, these tools, including Wireshark, on your host. It's I personally would recommend that if you can't get a VM up and running, there's several different options that are in my blog. I talked about how to run it as a container using Docker, how to go to get a virtual machine space from Amazon, or get it from what's the other one? The cloud one. With the
Microsoft
droplets.
Cloud?
With the droplets.
DigitalOcean.
Yeah. So
If you have an edu address, you can go to github.com and sign up for their student package, and it gives you some credits for free. I think it's AWS and DigitalOcean, or maybe it's just DigitalOcean, but you'll get
I know for
credits
sure DigitalOcean. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there's AWS under the Student Developers Pack, which you can usually get to, there's several different sources that'll give it to you, but GitHub, definitely, they have a Student Developers Pack, and it's got some credits in there for AWS. You can always throw it on a Pi. I mean, there's so many different options, but putting it on your host machine, it's just asking for trouble, unless you're going to image your entire system before and after the competition. I just wouldn't do it.
Gina.
I'm literally uninstalling it as we speak.
So as you can say, even we make mistakes, even we learn stuff from each other. I don't know how Gina has never heard me lecture every student ever on using virtual machines. Gina, I don't say it for my health.
It's gone. It's off my machine.
Mark Dark Shark, which I've literally practiced in my head 4 times to say, asks, is your NCL participation score a good point to add to your resume? I know both Gina and I have it on our resumes, and we both got a job at the same company. John, what about you?
I've got it actually on my resume as well. The way I put it is under skills and training. That's a good category to drop it into. But and another thing that you can always add is ask me about my players report, right? We had an idea to put stickers on your resume that say, ask me about my NCL player.
Yeah, I think we're one of the things I'm trying to get included in the swag shop this season is a sheet of small stickers that can be placed on the top corner of your resume that say, ask me about my NCL scouting report. So we're hoping to get that to you guys. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I haven't designed it. I've asked for it to be designed, but we'll see what happens because
for
I
right
don't
now-
run that team.
Right now on my resume, I definitely have ask me about my NCL scouting report.
We also have a new LinkedIn page, so you can add NCL as like a previous employer so that you have, if you have no previous work experience, you can put it as an employer. Franz, are there any options through Cyber Skyline for like badges? I know that was something talked about at some point. Is that a thing or did I make that up? I could be lying.
It's a thing. So I believe at the end of the season, when we send you your scouting reports over email, there will also be a button there with instructions on how to add your performance into your LinkedIn profile. And that's a great way if you're looking for a job, and employers you'll have all these different recruiters who are just scouring the internet on LinkedIn for people's performance. And if you have here on your LinkedIn profile saying, hey, this is my performance in NCL, that's a way to make you stand out and potentially get you, an interview and an interested recruiter to talk to you.
Yeah, because it comes down to the same thing that we always talk about with the games, which is this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where your actual classroom experience becomes real working experience. You've actually used the tool in a real setting to solve a problem. And that experience alone, there are so many people that graduate with a degree that when they get to an interview they freeze because they haven't actually used the knowledge in a practical application.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you put me and set me down for a test, I'm going to pass that test. Like, if it is ABCD, I can guarantee you I'm going to pass that test. I don't even have to read, anything on the subject. I'm going to figure it out and pass the test because there's a certain, human element to, how questions and answers are designed. So, I will psychology the crap out of it and pass the test. That does not mean that I was ready for the workforce. I really wasn't ready for the workforce until I really started getting good in the NCL games. So I can say for a fact, just because you look smart on your resume does not mean that you are actually smart. I'm a person who can, purposefully look like I'm smart and not be smart. And I've had to, especially in this industry, you can't always fake it. And NCL is a good way to show that you're not faking it, that you not only can talk the talk, but you can walk the walk.
I've actually been asked in an interview before if I have a home lab or if I do anything at home, to accelerate my learning. It's something that is almost expected in the industry, is that, this is a continuous learning environment. You have to constantly be learning to keep on top of everything. I mean, the tools that we used 3 years ago, they may not even be there anymore. They could have been replaced by something. Backtrack was around right before Cali, and there's still people that don't know about Cali because they practiced Backtrack back in the day and they've got it on their resume. Things change so quickly in this industry that you're expected to stay on top of it. And, so I can't emphasize enough, putting, any kind of, home lab, or, in this case, the NCL is your home lab.
Okay. There's a question that I think is sarcastic, but what is the Discord link? I don't think we have an official Discord.
No. I was just saying earlier, like, for your team, if you cannot all be in the same room during the team game, like, set up a Discord channel for yourselves. It'll be really helpful.
I think it's definitely better at sort of the small, like, team level, rather than, I think if we had 5,000
If we had a big
Discord,
it would be a nightmare.
I can guarantee I would not join that channel.
Me either.
So my college, my community college, we put together a Slack channel, and all of us are in that, and then I just create a room for NCL teams, and then you can get in that room and, have voice chat support, be able to drop documents in there, links to Google Docs if you're sharing like a kind of Google Doc. This is all, of course, during the team, challenges where you can actually talk to people. Just want to emphasize that. But, for your coordination and chat, I mean, it's, Discord is pretty effective at that, I think.
So I just want to let you guys know sort of what happens in the questions. We want to make sure that what we're talking about is super relevant to NCL. So if you're asking questions about like a lot of other things, I'm just going to remove them. It's not really what we're here to talk about. If it's related, I'll talk about it. But for the most part, we're here to focus on one subject. Just because you put the same question in multiple times, if I remove it multiple times, it's because I've removed it. It doesn't just disappear. But there is a great question here from Hush. Are there variations in how the questions are answered, i.e. 100 versus 100? That did not make any sense. 100 versus spelling out 100.
So yeah, I'll have to take that one. The short answer to that is you can submit it either way, and they will both be accepted. If for whatever reason you have the right answer and it is right, and for the format was not perfect and we didn't accept it, you can open a support ticket. You can let one of us know, and if you truly got the right answer and it was the format of your response that made it incorrect, we will credit you, and we will go and retroactively credit everyone else who might have submitted it the same way as well. So we never want the format of your answer to be the thing that prevents you from getting credited for it. So if you truly have the right answer, please let us know, and we'll never ding you for formatting unless the format itself is the thing that we're
inherently wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you are putting it in the incorrect format and that inherently makes your answer incorrect, then you won't get credit for it. But if it's one thing where it's like the word 100 or the number 100, either one should be accepted. And if for whatever reason you're not being accepted and credited properly, please let us know. We'll give you credit for it.
Yeah, just submit tickets for that kind of stuff. I mean, I think I opened a ticket this season because I was salty.
Is it about the thing we talked about yesterday?
I'm still salty, Franz. Still upset.
I don't think I handled that one. I think Toby handled that request.
I don't think anybody handled that because I still have a terrible accuracy in open source. But they also don't pay attention to me because my score gets removed. We basically play for fun and to make sure that we share in your experiences. So we don't matter at the end of the day. So I've been around a while. They're used to me. They don't really care if I'm upset as long as other players won't get upset.
We'll try to help you out when possible.
But I did submit something. I was like, hey, I don't really agree with this. Here's why. I think we should, tweak it a little. And I know they've made that change. So they are very responsive. They do pay attention to those tickets, and those tickets are the best way to get their attention. If you think that a challenge is not working correctly, or that you maybe don't have the right way to submit your answer or formatting or anything like that, they're great about it. When I was just a player, I submitted so many tickets because I was like, I don't understand. And honestly, they should have just kicked me out.
I will add to that, though. If you are on the Slack and you're trying to get tech support, you're better off opening a support ticket, because what will happen is we'll get 20 different people request for help on Slack, and Slack doesn't have a good way of queuing and making sure, do I have an action item that I need to respond to right now? And you could get buried by accident. It's not because we're trying to ignore you. Sometimes it is because
if you're me, it's because they're trying to ignore me.
Okay, so that's also one thing. When you're asking for support, we have a lot of people who are always convinced that they have the right answer. They tell us that we're very wrong, and we're like, no, this is a common wrong answer. Sorry. And we're not going to be extremely responsive if you're going to be very pushy like that. So if you're convinced you have the right answer, please tell us calmly.
Don't send them all the rage gifts.
You send us what you think the answer is, why you think that is the correct answer, and then we'll take a look. And if you open a support ticket, we're more likely to make sure it's handled, because otherwise we're getting 20 people like sending us messages. It gets buried in the chaos. So that's the best way to get help. Now, the Slack channel is a great way to talk to other people, and when it's less busy, direct messages. But if you truly need support and needs to be answered, please open a support ticket, because that's the best way to get a response.
Do you guys get a different type of alert? Like, are you more likely to roll out of bed at 3 a.m. to deal with an alert via
I am not
versus...
unless I'm getting a report from our own infrastructure saying that everything's down, I'm not rolling out at 3 a.m. to answer your support question. So also keep in mind that when you open a support ticket at 4 a.m, we're not going to respond within the hour. It's just not. You mean happen.
You're human?
Yeah.
I thought you guys were both robots. Toby's definitely a robot. We've never seen Toby on a live stream, so we have no confirmation that he's not a robot.
I will give you confirmation, and maybe one day we'll get visual confirmation Toby's not a robot.
We need to send him here's a squiggly letter. Can you read it?
Toby basically exists as a Slack bot. He's just an AI that powers a Slack bot.
Oh man, it's Franz's alter ego. He's not a real person. I will say I have met Toby, and he is wonderful and charming, but also refuses to get on camera no matter how much I beg, plead, and borrow. Nick Card. Oh, I can't even read tonight. Nick Card also asks where one can get free PDFs on how to use Kali. I don't think there's any one resource that has everything that you need to know. I think you just need to follow a lot of Google links, follow a lot of YouTube tutorials, maybe get some books. The Web Application Hacker Handbook, I've heard, is fantastic, recommended by a very reliable source that I have not followed up on the recommendation yet. I own the book, have not read it.
I would also recommend, if you're looking for training videos, looking at the Hack 5 videos. It's made by actual hackers, and they go through how to use a lot of tools in Kali, so I find that to be very useful.
Oh my god, you guys, I said whose tips did you need the most, and 4 people voted for Toby. And I'm pretty sure it's because Toby's not here. This is how 90% of you are inaccurate about sushi being the best food. Because sushi is the best food, and 90% of you on my poll said that pizza and tacos were better.
Lies. Sushi is the best food.
See? 2 out of 2 confirmed. Everybody else is wrong.
Granted, I have had sushi, tacos, and pizza in the last 3 days.
I have too.
So,
yeah, I think I've had 2 of those today.
I did have pizza for lunch.
I had pizza for lunch, and I am having sushi for dinner.
We're too similar, and it scares me.
Speaking of how similar we are, Gina and I both got wands from Disney, and Gina got hers like 2 years ago.
Mine's right here. It's right behind
Hold
me.
on. Let me send a person. Michael. Michael. He's not listening. My fiance's on the couch, but so Gina will show you her one that she got like 3 years ago. She picked it herself.
4 years ago, almost 5.
Okay. A long time ago.
It's so pretty.
And then I went to Harry Potter World, and I went to Ollivander's, and I got selected for the wand selection ceremony, and my wand chose me, and it's the exact same wand.
Yeah.
So Gina and I, same person. Just find one of us. Then you've got both of us.
Pretty much. I mean, I do a lot of like responding to things when I know Kate can't.
Gina's better at answering.
Yeah.
So I think Franz.
Kate's just more busy.
And Kate's more tired. Kate's older. Old age is sinking in and dying. I'm not that old. I'm only 26, but I feel like I'm 46.
Same.
Although John made a face, which makes me feel like I just called him
That was
older
a
than I
face of wait
intended
until you
to.
get to 46 to say that.
Not to dox you, John, but how old are you? I didn't think you were that. Wait, your kids are my
I'm
age,
not
never mind.
46. I'll tell you that. I'm not 46.
You won't say whether it's higher or lower, though.
I do have a little bit of gray coming in, but that's okay.
Oh, I say it with love. John, we picked for the board because John is a returning student. John's a student who went back to school later, and we think he's a great representation of that team. Franz is here because Franz makes the games, and I was like, hey, the games are playing. You should join this show to talk about the games. So with that, we're at about an hour and 15 minutes, which is pretty long for us on the East Coast, which is like everyone currently on the camera. So with that being said, I guess we'll go around. Gina, I'm going to start with you so that I can kick you off and invite Dan back. Any last minute tips for surviving preseason?
Surviving preseason.
Or the games in general.
Or the games in general. If log analysis is beating you up, don't spend 6 hours on it in a row.
Speaking from experience?
Yes. Oh God!
I'll never
forget my.
Have you looked at log analysis this preseason?
I've looked at some of it. I did the first challenge, and then I said, I don't like this anymore.
Is the employee access the one that got you for 6 hours?
Probably.
Yeah, I think the challenge is back. Please be healthy and don't stare at it for 6 hours.
I won't, because God knows I don't have the time.
All right, Gina, have a great night.
Good night, guys.
And then, John, any last-minute tips?
Yeah, one thing that hasn't been really said is documentation. Document your process as you go along. Write down comments. Write down things that you learned. Try to put together a little bit of your own kind of field manual for next time, because a lot of the times when I've gone back at the next season, I'll go back to my notes and I'll be like, oh, that's right, I forgot, oh, that tool I forgot the name of. If you got good notes, then you'll be able to always kind of go back and improve on what you already know.
I have a very organized bookmarks folder. That's my add-on. If I find something I like, I bookmark it, and I actually bookmark it by NCL category. So I have a folder for NCL and then every single category within NCL. So
I use OneNote, and actually I'll get different tabs for each different category, and then as I learn things, I just drop new hints onto each one of those categories. So when I'm going through steganography, for example, I'll go to the steganography tab, and all the things that I've tried before that have worked are right there, so I can go right through them and be like, okay, I've used that tool before, I've used that to solve this kind of challenge, and it just kind of gives me a head start in my thinking process.
John, the players are going to end up making a list of words you say that make me twitch at some point.
Okay, which ones are...
Oh, you said steganography, and I twitched a little, and I was like, oh, I made a face. They're going to come up with another one. just like scripting. So now it's scripting
I
and
love
steganography.
steganography. You know me.
We're just what I love about us is that we're very complementary in our skills. So that's why we've competed on many teams together for different competitions. But also we bring, different perspectives to our team. So
Yeah, we're different Hogwarts houses. I'm a Slytherin, but it works. It's okay.
I know you're a Slytherin. I'm a Ravenclaw, the best house. But with that, John, have a great night. We appreciate you being
All right.
on.
Thanks for joining us.
And then, Dan, do you have any last-minute pro tips for the players?
No, I have a couple of last-minute comments. I was looking at the polls.
Okay.
So 60% have already used Slack. I was very impressed. It took the overs over my 50-50. And I also looked at who had the best pro trips. And when I saw that Toby got 4 votes and Franz got 0, I thought, Toby really should give a kind of a
We're just going to rack up.
I would love to see the side, Toby pop his head in for the screen just to say hi.
He's not. I would enjoy it too. Hold on.
I don't think it's going to happen, guys.
No. We can hope for the best.
I'm very impressed that he got 4 votes for the 20 seconds.
I voted for Toby. So Dan, did you have any pro tips to wrap up for the night?
I think this should be required viewing for everyone who plays NCL. This has been a fantastic show tonight. Each of your shows really speaks to the players. And so I really hope we can promote these more and look forward to more of these. So thank you.
These shows are only great because you guys are great and you comment and ask questions and you're such a great part of these shows. It's really you guys. So Dan, I'm gonna kick you off for the night. Have a good night. And then Franz, I made you be last because somebody posted a question that I wanted you to answer.
Oh, that's why I'm last. Okay.
Yeah, you're not. Oh no, it disappeared. What did I do? It's gone. There was a question.
Oh no.
I think it was something along the lines of what is the purpose of the preseason? It was similar to that question, and I know we talked about it a little bit before, but I wanted to give you one more time to talk about it.
Sure. So the purpose of the preseason, again, is basically to be able to understand your skill level coming into NCL. So that way we can bracket you in the appropriate skills bracket. So if you're not familiar with the concept of brackets, basically the way it works is we have gold, silver, and bronze. And the idea being that if you're kind of a beginner, you're probably going to come in at that bronze bracket. We have more information on exactly how these brackets work on the registration page. Toby also just posted a link in the Slack channel. But if you go to the NCL registration page, there's a button for more information, and there's a section on brackets. And the preseason is how you get bracketed. And if you don't do the preseason, you will be unranked. And what unranked means is, for one, you won't show up on the leaderboard. So if you were hoping to get your name out there, no one's going to really be able to see you. So showing up to the leaderboards is something that you would want to do. There's also the scouting reports, which you do not qualify for if you're not ranked. And something that we just started doing now is if you actually do the preseason in the individual game, you help your school in the cyber power rankings. So this is something that we started putting out, and you need to be able to do the preseason in an individual game to count towards your school's participation. So there's a section on there for participation rank from schools, and just by participating in NCL, you will help increase your school on the leaderboard. And if you do even better during NCL, you'll help increase the participation rank even more, but you won't hurt your school by doing poorly. So we want to encourage you as much as possible to participate in NCL, do the preseason, because you miss out on so much if you don't do the preseason.
Yeah.
Do you think that answered the gist of where that question was going?
I do, and I'm going to ask you to share any last pro tips you have, but I know Toby's right there. So I'm also going to ask Toby, even though you're only in the comments, if you have any last-minute pro tips for our players, to share them in the comments. So if you want to see Toby's tip, you'll have to check the comments. But Franz, if you have any pro tips as well before we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned most of everything I wanted to say already, but what I'll end with is, one, absolutely do the preseason, do it yourself, get your friends to do it. It's always a shame to see people, register for NCL, do all this, heavy lifting of paying for it or getting it from your coach and signing up and everything, and then missing out on the preseason. And fewer people do the preseason than we would like. So make sure you do it and you get your friends to do it, and have fun and learn something. That's really what it comes down to. Don't worry too much about your score, especially if you're starting out. But if you learned one new thing from doing NCL, I think that's probably the best thing that you can get out of NCL.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So with that, Franz, have a good night. And I know you're listening, Toby. So in the comments, if you have anything. Have a good night, Franz. And with that, I guess it's just me sort of wrapping up my tips. My tips are to check out all the content the Player Ambassador board is posting. I sort of created the Player Ambassador role by wanting to make the competition more accessible to first-time players, to sort of end that fear of, oh, I'm new, I can't, I shouldn't. No, you're new, you should. That's exactly when you should do it. So there's the original CryptoKate coaching guide under workshops somewhere. We're creating new content. There's all the blog posts that we've been putting out all season. And that repository of information is just going to continue to grow from season to season. We really like what we've accomplished this year with the Crowdcast show, so make sure you go back and review all of them, especially on topics that you're not super familiar with. You can do that by going to the top left corner of your screen. You should see something that says schedule. Tonight is session 9 out of 14 for this season, so just go see the previous 8 videos. We put out so much content for you guys, and we're so passionate about putting out the content to help you and to make it more accessible to the players. So just make sure you're taking advantage of all the content that we put out there. We work incredibly hard. We do it for not a whole heck of a lot, and we want to make sure that you get the best experience. And of course, also pro tip, join our show next week. We're going to talk about how to run your preseason recaps effectively. I have some strategies. I know John and Gina have some different strategies. I'm sure WebWitch has some different ones. So we're going to share all of those. The blog post isn't written, so I have no idea what's going to be said on the show. So I think it'll definitely be an interesting and important show. And I think it will help you to figure out how best to prepare if you're a part of a school team for the individual games. If you're solo, the best thing that you can do is review your notes. That's a very short answer. And review all the content that's already out there. So just make sure that you're taking advantage of all the different learning resources. And with that, I hope you guys are having a lot of fun in the games. I would love for you guys to fill out the polls. We really do take a look at them while we don't take them too serious. Obviously, whose tips do you need the most isn't that super important to us, but we do want to know, are you having fun in the preseason? And, do you use the Slack channel? If you don't use the Slack channel, the link has been posted like 30 times tonight. Get involved. There is an Ask Kate channel, which all the player ambassadors monitor. There's ways to get up with Franz and Toby, and there's ways to just be a part of the NCL community. We're a great family. There's also ways to help you find teams. If you are an individual player and you don't have a team and you don't have a way to get a team, there's team matching. So just get involved in all the resources, and all of those resources are found in the blog. So you can click the check out Kate's blog below and go to the top 10 do's and don'ts. And under Dan Manson's do, there's all those links. So with that, happy hacking and have a good night, guys. I cannot end the broadcast. Where's the button? We're gonna keep hanging out. Oh, I found it. Hi. Have a good night.